Welcome to the P.A.S. Report podcast. If you're tired of censorship, outraged by government abuses, and thirsty for real insights, then you're in the right place. Get ready, because here, the fight for freedom never ends. Here's your host, Professor Nick Giordano.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the P.A.S. Report podcast. This is your host, Nick Giordano. I'm glad you could join me today. Make sure that you follow and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Also, visit the P.A.S. Report website, pasreport.com, and share this episode with your family and friends because it is insanity out there. Over the weekend, we witnessed anti-ICE riots. That's what we'll call them. They're anti-ICE riots in cities like Los Angeles. The governor of California, completely useless in this whole thing. And President Trump has now ordered the National Guard, 2,000 guardsmen, to go and protect ICE agents and bring calm to the city. But what we saw was crazy. ICE agents being pelted with rocks, vehicles burning on fire. And it reminds us of the summer of love of 2020. It reminds us of the fiery but peaceful protesters that the media was trying to push out there. Completely ridiculous and unacceptable. Unacceptable here in the United States. This is the real insurrection, what we're witnessing. It's an attempt to bully the United States government into surrendering our sovereignty because we are talking about violent mobs, torching cars. There was one video of them dousing an engine in gasoline and setting it on fire. They almost blew themselves up, the morons that they are. We saw ICE agents being pelted with rocks, and in one location, there were cinder blocks, pallets and pallets of cinder blocks right by the protesters. And you have to wonder, I didn't see any construction sites around these cinder blocks. Now, it's not unusual in any major city where you're going to have building materials on the street because a building project is about to start. But I didn't see any scaffolding or anything like that. They were just pallets of cinder blocks. To me, that indicates something more nefarious going on. We saw windows being smashed and the height of insanity. You had people, illegal immigrants and leftists, proudly waving foreign flags. Now just stop and think about that for a moment. Foreign flags on American soil being waved while American law enforcement officers are being attacked for carrying out their duties, for enforcing immigration law. And this is what happens when you have open borders, a sense of entitlement, and you combine it with radical leftist agitators like Antifa. You don't get compassion. You don't get peaceful demonstrations. You get organized chaos that is solely designed to destabilize the country. You get firebombs, barricades. You don't get arguments. You don't get rational debate or discussion. And let's be clear. These aren't heartwarming stories of families that are coming over. Give me, you're tired, you're hungry, you're poor, you're huddled masses yearning to be free. This isn't about that. This is about the government that's finally enforcing immigration law, targeting those that are violent criminals, targeting those that already have removal orders. These riots aren't about justice. It's not about human rights. It's about a leftist mentality, and they're undermining the rule of law. They're pushing a radical ideology that sees America not as a home to be protected, but as a system to be torn down. That's what this is really about. You have individuals that believe citizenship is an accident by birth. They believe that the United States is evil. They believe that this is their land. And to a certain degree, it's actually working, at least in Democrat strongholds, because you have these sanctuary cities that have become playgrounds for extremists. And instead of enforcing the law, you have mayors and city councils tie the hands of law enforcement, not only tie the hands of law enforcement, but prevent them from working with ICE. They want to throw ICE agents to the wolves. They don't want to cooperate. And some of these politicians attack the ICE agents themselves. And we saw this take place in Newark, New Jersey, where you had a bunch of Democrats that wanted to make the news. They wanted to become the story. They didn't care about what was going on in the detention facility. To them, it was about them. And you want to know why this is happening? It's because our political elites have spent years demonizing ICE. They've spent years elevating illegal immigrants as some sort of sacred, protected class above the law. And we're watching that toxic narrative explode in the streets. You have people like Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who accused ICE agents of being white supremacists, Nazis, fascists. And the media won't show you the worst of it because the media runs cover for the Democrat National Committee. The media runs cover for the Democratic Party. But there are ICE agents that are being physically attacked while mobs chant and throw projectiles. They're vandalizing government property. They're vandalizing private property. They're blocking roads. They're surrounding buildings. And somehow we're supposed to pretend that this anger is righteous, that these people are justified, that it's Trump that's creating the chaos, not the open border. See, this isn't protest. It's not peaceful protest. It's not fiery, peaceful protest. This is coercion. This is an attempt to strong arm and intimidate America and the American people. It's a sense of lawlessness. And here's the kicker. These ICE raids are targeting the worst of the worst. When we look at the numbers, over 30% of these people have committed violent crimes, the ones that are being deported, over 30%. And we're talking about serious abuses. We're talking about murder. We're talking about rape. We're talking about pedophilia. These are things that is absolutely disgraceful. And then if you factor in the DWIs, you factor in the other criminal elements, assaults, the number grows. These are people that are being deported that already have removal orders. They're repeat offenders, the kind of people that any country would deport without apology. But because it's Trump that's back in office, because we're suddenly enforcing immigration law, well, the leftists want to treat this as if it's a war crime. This entire situation was preventable, but it's a direct result of the left's open border fanaticism. They've sent the message loud and clear. The border doesn't matter. The law doesn't matter. And if you try and enforce it, they're going to unleash a violent mob on you. That you come to the United States and you have a sense of entitlement that you deserve to be here, when that's not the case. And Americans see this for what it is. You would think that Democrats would get the message because in 2016, Trump won based on illegal immigration. He was the only one that brought it up. And that's what propelled him to victory. In 2024, the big part of his victory stemmed from Biden's open borders and mass illegal immigration. The Americans understand that this is an assault on our sovereignty. And if these agitators think that setting fire to ICE vehicles, that pelting ICE agents with rocks, that waving the flag of another country is going to win over hearts and minds, well, then they must have gotten into Hunter Biden's stash because they're delusional. And you have a bunch of Democrat politicians that enable them, like Senators Chris Van Hollen and a bunch of others that went to El Salvador to visit him, holding him up as a martyr. Well, now he's charged with human trafficking and involved in murder, gang ties. This is what Democrats are enabling. It's disgraceful. It shouldn't be happening. And you know what really infuriates me? You know what drives me nuts? We've been told the same lie for almost 2 decades now, actually about 2 decades, because I remember in 2005, you had the Senate debating this idea of comprehensive immigration reform, and nothing ever came of it. But there were about 12 million illegal immigrants in this country at that point. That's what the estimates were. And it's funny how that number hasn't changed since 2005. No matter how many people pour across the border year after year, Democrats and the media will still bring up that 12 million number. It's insane. But we know the truth because we have a Yale MIT study, and we're talking about institutions that aren't exactly right-wing. These aren't your conservative institutions. And they estimate that the real number is somewhere between 16 and 29 million. Now, that dates back to about 2016 or 17, maybe even 2018. But when we look at that number, 16 to 29 million, and that was before the Biden administration blew open the floodgates and allowed another 12 to 15 million come in unchecked. So you do the math. We could be sitting on top of 35 to 40 million illegal immigrants in this country. It's more than the population of Florida and New York combined. But don't expect the media or the Democrats to ever acknowledge that because it destroys their narrative. Now, I want to make this clear. I have sympathy for the person that was brought over at 6 months old and now they're 20 years old. I have sympathy for those people, but that's not who we're talking about. And the more you do this, the more Americans turn against this idea that anyone could just come to the country, because this isn't about immigration anymore. This is a population shift that we're witnessing. It's a silent invasion, and the people flooding in, many of these people aren't coming here to be Americans. They don't appreciate the American system. They don't want to become part of the American way and adopt the American identity. Many of the people, not all, but many of them coming in are here to take advantage of the system. Some of them have hostile intentions. We know that foreign intel agencies have sent agents here to conduct espionage because our border was wide open. Thank you, Joe Biden. But we also know that a lot of countries, including Venezuela, did empty out their prisons. The Democrats say, oh, no, that's not true. That never happened. No, it did happen. Because think about it logically. It costs a lot of money to house prisoners. I believe in the United States, it's over $30,000 or $40,000 per year per inmate. It costs a lot of money to house inmates. So why not allow your worst offenders to get out of prison and help them migrate to the United States? And it saves your country a ton of money. So yes, countries have emptied out their prison. And President Trump isn't lying when he says they're not sending us the best of the best. We have so many people here engaged in drugs, human trafficking, gang activity, and it's only getting worse. And then you have others that are indifferent to our laws, our customs, our language, our way of life, and obviously the American flag, because it seems that they don't know how to wave an American flag. Amazing. That always amazes me, that you have people that flee their countries because their countries don't have the opportunities that we have here in the United States. Some may want to seek a better life, and yet you look and they're waving the native country's flag. Well, obviously you don't want to be here. Obviously that's not immigration. That's infiltration. And let's talk about ICE for a second. You would think from the way that Democrats talk, ICE is going door to door, rounding up grandmas, but that's not reality. ICE is targeting people that should be removed from our society. You do not have a right to come to the United States. This is America. We are a sovereign nation, and we get to determine who can come in and who can't. That is our choice. There's nothing in the Constitution. I mean, if Democrats could show me, I'll reverse course. I will do an entire podcast. If anyone could show me where in the Constitution it says that if you come to the United States, you're entitled to stay in the United States indefinitely, despite court orders, despite removal orders, despite going to immigration court. Show me where it says it. Show me where in the Constitution it says that the Constitution protects illegal immigrants. These people have had their day in court. They've exhausted their legal process, and they're not supposed to be here. This isn't hard to say. And yet we're the ones that are supposed to feel guilty enforcing our laws? How insane is that? No other country on earth allows this level of lawlessness. You have European nations that come close, some of them, just because of their own sheer stupidity. But try sneaking into Mexico and refusing to leave after your asylum claim is denied. See what happens. Go sneak into Colombia illegally, Venezuela illegally, and see what happens. You'll be gone in a week, but here you could stay years upon years. People that have been literally deported, removed from the United States 6, 7, 8 times, coming right back in. In fact, you're rewarded. Because of the Biden administration taking off all the rules, you come here, you get all the entitlement benefits, Medicaid if you're in California, New York. And let's face it, these programs cost a lot of money. But you'll get medical care, you'll get food, you'll get schooling, you'll get housing, you'll get legal aid, all at your expense, all at the taxpayer expense. American taxpayers that work hard for their money and understand that the more people draw from these programs, the less money there is for Americans that truly rely and need these programs. So you have ICE agents that are vilified just for doing their job. You have the American people that are vilified because we want to control our borders. We want to retain our sovereignty. We believe that we are a nation state, and the entire thing is unsustainable. You can't have millions of people flooding across the border each and every year. At the same time, have all these entitlement programs. At the same time, you don't enforce law and you have sanctuary cities and expect the country to function properly. It's just, you can't have that. Our schools, our hospitals, our infrastructure, all being overwhelmed. I did a podcast episode maybe a year ago about how just in New York City alone, you've had over 40,000 illegals that have been registered and enrolled in the schools. Costs $39,000 per year to educate them. Now, do you think that the quality of education has improved when you have a massive increase like that flooding into the schools, particularly people that don't speak English, don't understand the culture, can't communicate because of the language barriers? Or do you think that hurts every other student in that classroom? Because now more attention needs to be paid to the people that just came over. Our schools have been overwhelmed, and it's not just here in New York City. You go to places like Denver, same thing. And at the center of it all is this manufactured myth that there's only 12 million people here illegally. And they're all just seeking a better way of life. That's why they're here. No. Some may be seeking a better way of life, but many are not. And we need to state that honestly. We need to be clear about that. Some are criminals, some are gang members, some are carrying drugs, some are foreign agents working to conduct espionage operations against the United States. And some are here simply because America won't stop them. Now that you have President Trump, well, things are different. He's trying to clean up the mess that Biden and the Democrats created. And yeah, it's going to get ugly. But that's what happens when leaders fail to do their job for years. That's what happens when you don't enforce the law. That's what happens when you routinely lie to the American public. And that's what happens when you pretend that our generosity here in the United States has no limits. The American people are the most generous people on the face of this earth. We're the most generous. We're open, we're accepting, and we are tolerant despite what the left wants to say. But that generosity does have limits. And I think that when Americans see ICE vehicles burning or other vehicles burning, when they see law enforcement officers getting pelted with rocks and cinder blocks, and when they see those that came over illegally waving flags from their native country, I think the generosity kind of ends there. Because we are now dealing with the consequences of cowardice and corruption within the system. The public officials, they are public servants, and you've heard me say this before. A public servant is there to serve the public. That's what they took an oath to do. They're not there to serve other people over Americans. Trump didn't create this problem. He inherited it. Republicans and Democrats for far too long have done nothing in regards to this issue. They want to say it's about comprehensive immigration reform. Obviously, you're not getting that done. You've tried that since 2005. The American people want the border crisis solved. They want a lot of the illegal immigrants removed from American society, particularly those that came over under the Biden administration, the criminal elements, those that already have their removal orders. They want them gone. Nobody has a right to stay in the United States if you're not an American citizen. And unfortunately, a lot of the people that have come over think they're entitled to stay here. And the media screams as the mob riots. It's our fault. If we don't get control of this now, we're not going to get another chance. I can tell you that. We have to do everything we can to support this effort. Everyone needs to stop pretending like this is a crisis that just started. The chaos that we're seeing, that it appeared out of nowhere, and that it's really Donald Trump's fault. Donald Trump is exacerbating the situation because he doesn't want to see cities burned down. He should just let the riots take place, just like they did in 2020. And how well did that work out for major cities around the country? The chaos that we're witnessing, it didn't appear out of nowhere. It was always there. It was just waiting. And the Democratic Party owns this disaster. Every step of the way, they've enabled it. They've encouraged it. And now they're feigning shock and outrage because President Trump is actually enforcing the law. They're calling him a fascist. They're calling him a dictator because, God forbid, a president of the United States enforces immigration law. In the words of Joe Biden, give me a break. These are the same politicians who spent years slandering ICE agents as fascists, who called border security racist, who screamed about the idea of parents being separated from children, yet they could care less that 300,000 children went missing under the Biden watch and were separated from their families. They're not outraged over that. They'll blame Trump for kids in cages. Meanwhile, those pictures are from the Obama administration, not the Trump administration. And who created the idea of sanctuary cities where local officials are not allowed to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement? You don't see that happening in red cities. Just a few weeks ago in New York City, you had minors, illegal immigrant minors, 12, 13 years old, assaulting police officers. When the police officers arrested them, brought them into the station, ICE agents showed up. And what did the NYPD commissioner do? Did the NYPD commissioner tell ICE, thank you, we need to get rid of these people that they dared to assault our officers, men and women who are working hard every single day that have to deal with the worst of the worst? We want to thank you, ICE, and we're going to cooperate. Is that what she said? And the answer is no. What did she do? Well, she announced she's going to open an internal probe to find out who informed ICE that these illegal immigrants were brought to the precinct. Think about that. That's not only the height of stupidity, that's nefarious. Okay, these people have demonized law enforcement, put illegal immigrants on a pedestal, and now after years of open borders propaganda, we're seeing the results. Violent mobs attacking federal officers in broad daylight, cities overrun with criminals, and our immigration system is on the verge of collapse. This is the end result, the end product of Democrat policies, and that's why they lost the election. And look at what they've done. Catch and release programs that let people disappear into the interior of the United States, go wherever they want with no intention of ever showing up to their immigration hearing. You have handouts for illegal immigrants, everything from driver's license, college tuition, healthcare, things American citizens can't even get. Like, I would have loved to have had my college tuition paid for by the American taxpayers. Instead, I had to earn scholarships. I had to take out loans, and I had to pay back those loans. And it took me years to pay back those loans. You have laws passed in states like New York and California that actively protect criminals from being deported. They're actually using taxpayer dollars to provide legal aid. Insanity. And now we see foreign flags raised while American flags get burned. And Democrats still won't say a word. They created this culture of lawlessness. And they invited the world in with promises of all these benefits, no accountability. Why did they do that? Well, they did it for the census. They did it because they see that Americans are leaving the cities. They don't want to be in these big cities anymore. They don't like the conditions of these cities. They're tired of it. And so they're leaving in droves. And this has hurt Democrat representation within the government. How many seats has New York lost over the course of the last 20 years? How many seats in the House has California lost over the last 20 years? And those losses are slated to increase. But if you bring in an entire population of people from all over the world, well, you replenish. And the census operates based on how many people are in the state. It doesn't say you have to be a citizen or not. So the whole thing is a mess. And now someone's trying to clean it up, and they're screaming fascism and oppression. This is about justice. This is what the law looks like when it's actually enforced. And if you don't like it, guess what? Too bad. Not our problem. These ICE raids are just the beginning, and they should continue. And these are a message. America is back. We are not going to be bullied by mobs. We are not going to surrender our sovereignty to radical ideologues in the United States or from foreign countries. And we're not going to take lectures from the very people who allowed this invasion to happen in the first place. So when we see the Democratic Party in the media, why am I going to listen to them? After they've routinely lied, Democrats will say, oh, the threats to democracy. These are the same people that undermined the entire democratic process when they forced Biden off the ticket, anointed Kamala Harris, covered up Joe Biden's cognitive decline for well over 4 years. These are the ones that are talking about law and order, democracy. Give me a break. And the media, of course, they're playing their part. They're running the sob stories, the emotional manipulation campaigns, pretending that every single illegal alien is a poor, desperate victim that's being torn from their family. That's a lie. That's a myth. And where are the sob stories for the victims of crimes committed by those that are here illegally? Where's the sob story for the Laken Rileys and the countless others? What about the American citizens that have been killed, assaulted, harmed because politicians wanted to play political games rather than act like statesmen and women and do their damn job? Well, these stories, conveniently, they get buried. Sure, they're talked about on conservative media circles, but understand that the crisis we're witnessing, it's not by accident. It's ideological. And it's long past time for the people who actually caused this to pay the political price for it. Every single Democrat who supported sanctuary policies, every single Democrat who opposed border security, every single Democrat that tries to defund ICE should be held accountable. Because it's not that they just look the other way. They lit the fuse. And President Trump is doing what they refuse to do. He's confronting the problem head on without apology. And it needs to stay that way. And again, like I said, it's a messy process. It's not pretty. It's ugly. And there are going to be people that get caught up in the deportations that are good people that did want to come here for a better way of life. But they chose to come illegally. They committed a crime when they first entered the United States. That shouldn't be controversial. Enforcing our immigration laws is not controversial. It's actually long overdue. Because unlike the Democrats, people like myself understand that there is a fundamental principle that a country without borders isn't a country at all. That citizenship is not an accident by birth. And that we have to follow the rules. So I want to bring this episode full circle because at the heart of this entire crisis is something far deeper than just immigration policy. It's about national identity. It's about whether or not we believe this country has a right to defend its borders, that we have a right to enforce our laws, and that we have a right to decide who gets to be part of this nation. See, that's the real question. Because here's the truth. No one has a right to come to America. Not a single person. Immigration is a privilege, not a human right. You don't get to walk in here, ignore our process, ignore our laws, defy our laws, and then act shocked when there's consequences to that. We can't keep pretending that these open border policies are somehow compassionate. They're not. They're actually very reckless, and it puts not just Americans at risk, not just Americans in harm's way. It puts those that are coming here in harm's way. It puts innocent people in the countries that they're crossing through in harm's way. They endanger all of that. Not only that, when they get here, they strain our resources. They tear at the social fabric of this country. We used to have this idea called the melting pot. It was well known that if you come to this country, you enter this melting pot, you're going to shed some of your cultural identity that you brought with you from your native country. You'll keep some, but you're going to shed some, and you're going to adopt the American identity. There was an assimilation process that took place. And ultimately, you were responsible to adhere to American culture, to adopt American culture, to adopt the norms that we have, the traditions, the customs, the values. And then Democrats and the left flipped it, and our ideological higher education institutions. They started pushing this notion of global citizenship, global citizenry, and that the people coming here don't have to learn our customs and way of life, that now America must bow to their culture, must bow to their customs, must bow to their traditions. Again, it's insane. It's not compassionate. You want compassion? Start with the American people. Start with the working class who pay the price for this chaos, not the elites. And that's why, when it comes to the elites, that's why I called detention facilities should all be built in the wealthiest of the wealthy zip codes. Maybe if they had to see what people in the lower income communities went through, maybe their opinions would start to change. Let Nancy Pelosi house 10 migrants. They could eat her $10 ice cream. She has plenty of room. It's just her and Paul Pelosi. Let them start housing. See how that works out. See, to me, I want to start with legal immigrants who actually follow the rules. I want to start with the legal immigrants who have a desire to come here, who waited far too long. They should have been here sooner. But because of the rules when it comes to the legal immigration process and how long it takes, it's ridiculous. It should be reformed. But I want to see them become American citizens. I don't want to see other people skip the line, come here illegally, and then claim America is a bad country, that we're a horrible country, that we're an evil country, and that we have the audacity to even think about deporting people that are illegally here. We are a nation. We're not a global doormat. And when people attack federal officers, burn cars, wave foreign flags, they're not making an argument. They're making a political threat to every single American. That's how insurgencies operate. The good news is the tide is turning. Because of these actions, as I said, you wave a foreign flag, you're not going to win over hearts and minds, that's for sure. And that's exactly why President Trump is back in office. And he's doing what leaders are supposed to do. He's protecting the country. He's not bowing to mob rule. He's not playing by the media's narrative. He doesn't care what the media has to say. He's enforcing the law. And for that, they may call him a monster. They may call Tom Homan a monster. But the reality is, if that's what it takes to restore order to our border, this is what it takes. Because Democrats and Republicans have let this problem go on for so long. And I'll tell you this, America needs moral clarity. We need to stop apologizing for wanting a secure border. We need to stop pretending that the law is optional. We are a country that is built on laws. We're a country built on order, and we're a country that's built on a certain set of values. You want to come to the United States? That's fine. Do it legally. And you do it legally, and all the opportunities will be afforded for you. When you do it illegally, sooner or later, the rubber band's going to snap. People are going to be aggravated. And now we're seeing what that looks like because people are waking up. They're tired of being gaslit. They're tired of being told that enforcing the law is somehow evil and racist as mobs get celebrated for rioting in the streets. They're tired of the condescension. They're tired of being told they're mean because they simply don't want illegal immigration. And I think that we now have a real chance to restore sanity, but it's going to take resolve. It's going to take political will. It's going to take leaders who understand that sovereignty, it's not negotiable. And Democrats, the left, the media, illegal immigrants, they could scream all they want. They want to riot? Go riot. It's not going to help your cause. And all you're going to do in the process is expose exactly why the American people are fed up. Now, if you found the content of this episode informative, please give the P.A.S. report a 5-star rating. Take 30 seconds to write a review on any podcast platform that allows it, especially Apple Podcasts, because that helps more people discover it. And share this episode. Share it with your family and friends. I got a great guest coming on Wednesday. You're going to want to make sure that you tune in. We're going to talk about a lot of surveillance state, the administrative state, and the dangers that the administrative state still poses to the American people, despite the fact that President Trump won the election and Director Kash Patel is now head of the FBI. There's still dangers out there. So make sure you tune in. I want to thank you for joining me, and I'll be back on Wednesday with another great episode of the P.A.S. Report podcast.
Thank you for listening to the P.A.S. Report. Don't forget to rate, share, and hit that subscribe button. That way you'll never miss an episode. For more exclusive content and updates, visit us at PASreport.com and follow Professor Giordano on all social media platforms at P.A.S. Report.